In this video, I'm going to do a complete strategic scientific overview of carbohydrate metabolism and how carbohydrates optimize your digestion, lead to better metabolic performance, and optimizing your digestion through a high-carb diet. And so in the video, we're going to be going through an actual case study with one of my clients who made this transformation in just 6 weeks. But we're going to start with a little bit of actual data behind why this is important and why it's important to understand what carbohydrate metabolism is. We're going to go through how carbohydrates actually correlate to a healthy metabolism and how digestion correlates to a better metabolism, low-fat diets in digestion, higher carb diets in digestion, higher carb diets options and what kind of carbs you guys should be utilizing for your diet, and then main benefits of carbohydrate metabolism. And then we're going to cut it off with my 54-year-old client who is eating 350 grams of carbs, 700 more calories per day, and has completely gotten shredded at 54 years old. James right here, he's a wonderful client of ours, and I'm super excited to show you his transformation step by step, the macronutrients we gave him, how I structured his plan, and how we actually transitioned him into a carbohydrate metabolism state, optimizing his performance and overall metabolic profile. So if you guys don't know me by now, my name's Adam Bunnell. I'm an online metabolic specialist, and I specialize in metabolic priming and the optimization of metabolic performance within men. I've helped almost 500 men now, as of now, online, get absolutely shredded by optimizing their metabolism through a structural program called Metabolic Priming. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Metabolic Priming, you're more than happy to go check out my page. But the purpose of this video is to break down digestion and how it correlates to metabolism and how you can start to optimize your digestion, get rid of the gut, get rid of the inflammation, get rid of the cortisol-related gut, and really start to optimize how you look, how you feel, and just everything in general, all right? So like I said, this is my client, James, 54 years old, 350 grams of carbs on the right, 700 more calories on the right, and then here's his actual daily goals as of today with the macronutrients actually associated. So I'm going to show you exactly where his starting macronutrients were, and then how we transitioned his body into utilizing carbohydrates at a very high rate towards the end of the video. So make sure to stick around to that. But let's kind of understand why it's important to understand digestion and how it correlates to metabolism, right? So let's think about this logically. The first process when it does come to digestion is your metabolism, or other way around. Your metabolism is correlated directly to your digestion because the first process of your metabolism is how your body breaks down and utilizes food. So there's a couple key concepts we wanted to focus within James, and I'm going to pull up the actual graph of how your metabolism really works, okay? And so if we were to pull up a pie chart, this is exactly how your metabolism works. 60-70% of your metabolism is your basal metabolic rate. That's where we focus to optimizing our client's metabolic profile. We also have the thermic effect of food, right? So it's important to note that with the thermic effect of food, it's how many calories it takes to break down each macromolecule. So higher fat diets, fats being a 3% thermic effect, are going to digest relatively slower. Higher carb diets have a 10% thermic effect. And the reason why we utilize a high protein diet because it has a 35% thermic effect. So they've done studies on higher protein diets, and obviously higher protein is probably the most widely known topic that we can kind of talk about, where most people know the higher protein diet is beneficial, but they don't understand why. Yes, from a muscle building perspective, but also it works similar to an over-the-counter fat burner because of the high amount of thermic effect that it actually has. But optimizing the body for carbohydrates is simply going to optimize digestion. It's going to allow digestion to move faster, move smoother. So it's important to note that carbohydrates have a higher thermic effect, a 3 times as high thermic effect as fats. So how does exactly digestion and metabolism, are they interlinked? Digestion and metabolism are closely linked. Healthy digestion, which involves efficient breakdown and absorption of nutrients, is crucial for a healthy metabolism. A well-functioning digestive system ensures that your body receives the necessary building blocks to fuel metabolic processes like energy production, growth, and repair. Furthermore, the gut microbiome and community of bacteria and digestive tract plays a significant role in both digestion and metabolism. So nutrient absorption and metabolism breaks down food. Metabolism utilizes these nutrients. Efficient digestion equals efficient metabolism. The gut microbiome aids in digestion. Gut health impacts metabolism. Hormones and the gut-brain axis. Gut hormones regulate appetite, hormones like GLP-1. If you don't know what GLP-1 is, that's basically like Ozempic and all of your kind of weight loss medications to stimulate less hunger, right? Having a simply better digestive tract is going to optimize GLP-1s for overall feeling like you're more full, similar to the weight loss drugs that doctors tend to be pushing on people nowadays. But gut-brain communication, the gut and brain are connected through a gut-brain axis. And the gut microbiome can influence appetite and mood through this connection. Digestive issues and metabolism. Digestive problems can slow metabolism, issues like bloating and inflammation in metabolism. Chronic inflammation in the gut can also negatively impact metabolism. So it's important to note, like with carbohydrates reduce a lot of inflammation too. So that's why it's important that we utilize a higher carbohydrate diet with our clients, because it actually reduces a lot of the inflammation in the actual gut region and optimizes digestion, making food flow through your body at a very efficient rate. Improving digestive health for a healthy metabolism. Dietary changes, probiotics, prebiotics. In conclusion, a healthy digestive system is a cornerstone of a healthy metabolism. By optimizing digestion and supporting the gut microbiome, individuals can improve their overall metabolic health and well-being. Okay, so overall, it's important to note that digestion and metabolism are very closely related. Okay, and when our clients get in our program, the first thing we really try to optimize right off the bat is how well their digestion is, because we know the actual data points of an improvement in metabolism or digestion starts to significantly improve your metabolism just by optimizing nutrient absorption and the way that your body is utilizing actual nutrients. And you can even see it within some of our clients that a lot of our clients do come with kind of the cortisol-related gut, a little bit of inflammation in the gut region, and optimizing the actual digestive tract starts to really optimize their metabolisms overall. So it's important to note that that's always the first thing that we cover when we get into our programs. Like, okay, how can we optimize digestion? And obviously, digestion is something that's always constantly needing to be tailored to and making sure that we're keeping up to date with. I mean, we solve probably like 30 to 40 digestive-related issues a week, but we're pretty damn good at it by now. But anyways, moving on to like low-fat diets and digestion, okay? So let's kind of break down fat intake, for instance, okay? So fat intake has a 3% thermic effect. We know that. Gets broken down to fatty acids for energy, extra stored in fat cells. We know that. Gives the body energy to support cell function and hormones, right? So, like, fat intake is important within your body. It's important to note that within a low-fat diet, you still need fats in your diet. I would never recommend anybody going under 40 grams of fat within your diet. But a low-fat diet starts to optimize digestion because fats are relatively, by themselves, very slow digestion. So you can kind of think about fat intake like is like a dial to digestion, right? If you want to slow down digestion with our clients, we turn the fat up, right? Maybe a client comes to us, has trouble putting on weight. We'll turn the fats up a little bit and hold the weight a little bit. But in most cases, guys want to come to us to try to get to a lean, strong physique, and so we'll dial that fat down a little bit to optimize digestion and optimize just like the amount of fats going through your system at once. Like, let's think about this from like a context of holiday meals. You ever go to a holiday meal, Christmas, Thanksgiving, you eat a bunch and you just want to hit the couch and you just want to, pass out, right? Well, that's because like the high fat diets and a lot of these, like a lot of holiday meals, one will slow down digestion a little bit. And when you start to slow down digestion, that rushes blood to the gut region, which takes a lot of energy out of your body. Okay. So the benefits, fats have a lower thermic effect of food, which can make them slower to digest. So fats slow down digestion, right? Fat is a nutrient that takes longer to digest than carbohydrates or protein. This is because fat digestion requires more enzymes, fat is more complex, fat slows gastric emptying, and then fat stimulates the production of hormones. As a result, fat can prolong the feeling of fullness and reduce calorie intake. However, it's important to note that excessive fat intake can lead to digestive problems and other health issues. So I want to put it in like a kind of a side note right here, like the feeling of fullness and reduced calorie intake, because that is true. Like your fat intake will actually give you a little bit more fullness into your diet. So knowing this, what we teach our clients is that when you are most hungry, you utilize the most amount of your fats of that you have for the day. So if, like, for instance, for me, I'm the late night eater, right? I know that late night I get pretty hungry, so I'll utilize most of my fats for my day later in the night. It's not that I'm utilizing a higher fat diet. I'm just utilizing the amount of fats in my diet at a specific time for the feeling of fullness and feeling like I'm satiated and feeling good. And obviously, when you eat fats right before bed, you feel full and you obviously sleep a little bit better. So that's a kind of a side note, but yes, it is very true that the feeling of fullness does come from fats. But that's because like the slow digestive nature of fats make you feel more full. Okay, so like let's talk about on the opposite of things, higher carb digestion. So generally, carbohydrates digest faster than fats. Carbohydrates are broken down to sugars, Carbohydrates digest begins in the mouth with saliva containing amylase, which starts breaking down starches for the digestion in the stomach and small intestine. Fat digestion is more complex, involving lipase enzymes and then factors affecting digestive time. Type of carbohydrates, simple versus complex, and the presence of the nutrients like protein and fat can affect how quickly carbohydrates are digested, which we're going to get into that here in a second within the overall glycemic index, which is something we're going to bring up when we get into types of carbs you guys can utilize for your diets. But here's the difference with carbs and breaking down the macromolecule of carbs. So obviously, like we talked about, has a 10% thermic effect, supports bodily function, so it supports 60-70% of your metabolism. Your body's main fuel source gets broken into glucose for energy and extra stored in the liver. So yeah, note the extra is stored in your liver. So if you eat over the amount of carbohydrates that you need per day, you will store extra in your liver. But if you have a correlated amount of carbohydrates in your diet, there's a synergistic effect that happens with digestion, body composition, inflammation reduction, cortisol management, everything in between. So it's important to note that, like, although we do preach higher carb diets, the amount of carbohydrates is still very important, okay? But if we take a look right here, as opposed to a 9 calorie per gram with fats, carbohydrates have a 4, right? Have a less, twice as less calories per gram, right? And so it's like, we get less calories per gram and a higher thermic effect. So high carbohydrate diets promote gut health, regulate bowel movements, and reduce inflammation. These benefits stimulate the body's processes utilizing different types of carbohydrates, promote gut health, regulates bowel movement, reduces inflammation. And these are all the actual outcomes of a higher carb diet. So the caveat behind this is that within a higher carb diet, it only works if you have a lower fat intake. Because if you have a higher fat and a higher carb intake, then your body gets stuck in what's called a metabolic gridlock, where it doesn't know what actual macromolecule or what energy source to actually utilize. And that's when things can come up like insulin resistance and, inefficient metabolic pathways. So like, it's important to note that, like, you want your body to transition correctly into a carbohydrate metabolism state. And to do that correctly, you have to have a lower fat diet. So with that being said, so we get into like types of carbohydrates, because yes, some types of carbohydrates are slower digesting than others. We utilize more of a higher glycemic index carbohydrate. And what I mean by that is that higher glycemic carbohydrates are going to have lower fat in it. And if they have lower fat in it, they're going to digest quicker. They're going to get into the bloodstream quicker. They're going to have, in some cases, lower fiber intake. And so, like, when we get into, like, the types of carbohydrates we utilize, potatoes, which is, like, it's a pretty high glycemic carbohydrate. Jasmine rice, it's a huge one. Huge one. But it's right here, has 0 fats. So it's very quick digesting. So we get into, like, even other carbohydrates we use, like rice cakes, honey, sourdough English muffins are great as well. But notice how all these are pretty low in fats, right? Because we want a low-fat diet so that your body actually digests those carbohydrates at a very quick rate. And so, yes, the caveat behind this is if you eat, like, let's say rice and you put peanut butter in it, it's going to slow down the overall digestive nature of the actual complex carbohydrate and make it more sustainable long term. So, like, why I bring that up is that, like, the glycemic index, what people don't really understand fully is that although, like, your more white rice and your more white carbohydrates are going to be higher in the glycemic index, if you pair that with a fat, it now becomes a lower glycemic index, okay? Important to note. But these are the types of carbohydrates that we actually utilize and within our clients, right? And so a big one that I don't think we have in here is cream of rice, right? I love cream of rice, and I've gotten a lot of my clients in the cream of rice. What cream of rice is just jasmine rice broken down, protein powder, a little bit of peanut butter on top. We utilize that for our pre-workout meals because, like, if you pair a high glycemic carbohydrate with a fat intake like peanut butter, for instance, you can have more more energy for a longer period of time that actually utilizes a higher glycemic carbohydrate. So what I mean by that is that you can utilize a high glycemic carbohydrate and add a fat with it to make it more sustainable energy, right? But, like, what I really want to preach with this is that we utilize very simple digesting carbohydrates, very low fat intake carbohydrates that allow, your digestion just a lot more clarity, but also more simplification. When you start to get into, like, the fiber intake, and there's nothing wrong with oats, there's nothing wrong with fiber within within your overall carbohydrates. But when you start to add fiber into that, you start to slow down the digestion a little bit. And so, like, for instance, from a strategical, tactical standpoint, like, you don't want to eat carbohydrate high in fiber right before you go work out. You would rather eat that later in the night when you're more hungry, right? Or in the morning, you eat some fiber just to keep you full for a little bit until your next meal. And so all these little caveats and all these little like key points is something that we teach within our clients just for overall sustainability purposes. But like, for instance, like, if you want to optimize digestion, simple is always better. White rice, creamy rice, fruit, rice cakes. That's where we kind of stick within our clients, and optimizes digestion because it's very fast digesting. So I know there's going to be a question come up like, well, what about like insulin purposes and this and that? Well, so I would recommend, like, whatever your carbohydrate intake is for the day, whether it's 100, 200, 300, 400 grams of carbohydrates, try to space it out pretty well. I mean, that's going to be the best thing you can do for yourself. If like you have 200 grams of carbohydrates per day, then eat 4 meals that have 50 grams of carbohydrates in it. It's going to be a lot more sustainable, but you're also going to have some more sustainable energy. Because if you have 200 grams of carbohydrates in your diet and you eat 200 grams in one sitting, yeah, it's probably going to make you feel a little weird, okay? And some people are just fine with that. But like, what I'm saying is that, like, try to space them out a little bit. It'll be best for yourself, but it'll also be best for your digestion. So, like, what is the benefits of carbohydrate metabolism? That's what you guys are here for. Why do we want a higher carb diet for digestion? Why do we want a higher carb diet for overall physical performance? Why do we want a higher carb diet for overall body composition? Because transitioning the body into a carbohydrate metabolism can offer several benefits, including ready available energy to support brain function and aiding in weight management. It also plays a crucial role in exercise performance, particularly during high-intensity activities. It's an efficient energy source. It optimizes brain function because the brain relies heavily on glucose for optimal function. Metabolic flexibility, which includes the efficient process of carbohydrates, support cognitive functions like memory, focus, decision-making, while also helping prevent mental fatigue. This is carbohydrates, guys. And like I said, this means that you have to have a lower fat diet for this to work properly. So like, what most people use and what like the industry has pushed for the last 10 years is your fat adapted state, which is like your keto, low carb, carnivore, which does the exact opposite. It starts to slow down your digestion for a smaller period of time until your body transitions to a fat adapted state. So I'm not saying that nobody's ever made great progress with any of these diets. What I'm saying is that carbohydrate metabolism allows a lot more metabolic flexibility. It adds more weight management. While often associated with weight gain, carbohydrates, especially with fiber, can contribute to feeling fullness and satiety, potentially aiding in weight management, improving exercise performance, metabolic flexibility. The body's ability to switch between using carbohydrates and fats for energy is called metabolic flexibility. This flexibility allows the body to adopt different energy demands and maintain overall metabolic health. So, like, let's put in the context, like we talked about fat adapted state, where like you completely just get rid of carbohydrates. What happens is your metabolic flexibility goes out the window because it's simple. You don't use it, you lose it, right? And if you don't use the body's actual natural diurnal rhythms of processing carbohydrates and the machinery designed to utilize carbohydrates, your body doesn't feel the need for it anymore. So you'd be better off utilizing both, yes, higher carbs and fats, but utilizing a lower fat diet and higher carb diet, right? You want both of them in your diet, but you want them in a specific amount. You want more carbohydrates because they're more ready available energy source and they correlate to better digestion, better mental focus, mental clarity. But like, if you were to go completely carnivore, completely low carb, completely zero carb and go keto, your body would get rid of the actual mechanisms that are going to be beneficial in processing carbohydrates. And then you lose a lot of metabolic flexibility. So, nutrient-rich diet, carbohydrates found in wide varieties of nutrient-rich foods, including fruits, vegetables, whole grains, providing this with vitamins and minerals. So, how do we transition the body properly into a carbohydrate metabolism state? So most people who are using fat adapted or low carb diets are usually pretty low in calories, right? I would say most of them are. So what people don't know is the TDE chart with metabolic adaptation over time, and I've pulled this up in a couple of my videos, but I want to reinstate it, is that like over time, as you start to eat less, your body starts to burn less, right? So the TDE actual, the total daily energy intake actual, starts to actually go down the less that you actually eat, okay? And so the less that you actually eat, the less calories your body actually burns. The less that you eat, the less thermic effect of food that your body actually has per gram, right? So it's like if you're eating 3,000 calories, higher carb diet, lower fat diet, your body's going to have a lot higher thermic effect of food if you're eating 2,000 calories. All right. And so how we correct this is we actually have to reverse engineer this. We have to actually raise the carbohydrates slowly and transition the body back into a carbohydrate metabolism state, utilizing carbohydrates at a very fast rate. And so we take a lot of guys, I'll go and say we probably take 95% of our guys are around 2,000 calories. Not even joking. 95, if not more, are around 2,000 calories. And we have to bring their calories up to optimize metabolic function, but also transition their body into a carbohydrate metabolism state. The transitionary process for any type of diet usually takes 2 to 3 weeks, okay? Keep that in mind. Is that like you've probably been on a low-carb diet before, and you tried to switch out of the low-carb diet, and within the first week, you ate too many carbohydrates, you feel like crap, and you just went back to doing what you always done. What you have to understand is that you can't just push carbohydrates on the body when it's been such in a low-calorie deficit for so very long. It will have an adverse reaction to it. And so you have to slowly transition the body back. And it takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of calculations. And so what this looks like, for instance, like for James here, is that most guys, 95% of men in today's society have completely crashed their metabolism from over-dieting and severe lack of nutrients and just metabolic adaptations that have like tremendously just deteriorated your metabolism, okay? We can always optimize metabolism. Metabolism is one of those things that you can always optimize for better nutrient absorption, a better energy burn, and then just overall better body composition. So it's like what we do is we'll cut the cardio to zero, and we'll just start with 8 to 10K steps with our clients. Steps aid in digestion, right? Because they get the bodies moving a little bit and they get actual food moving within the body. What we'll do is we'll just slowly work these up, right? We'll just slowly work these up over time. And what we're doing right here is we're actually, if I was to draw a line right here, what we're trying to do, the goal, is to raise your calories as we raise the BMR, right? We're trying to raise these up. And so as we get up here, and so like James, for instance, he's at 2,800 calories now. We've got his body all the way up at here, but we've also optimized his metabolism. He's doing zero cardio as well. And if we were to look at this, what this looks like, let me first of all show you where he was at in calories when he first got it, and let's actually break it down. So he wasn't by no means utilizing a lower carb diet. He was actually not eating enough protein, which does happen. We do see that very often. But he was also severely under eating. He's 54 years old eating 2,100 calories. That is not very much. If you're above 20 years old and you're eating under 2,200 calories, you're severely low in calories. I'm sorry. But we knew we had to eat that up right off the bat. His starting photos right here, we knew, you can see like the gut inflammation right here. It looked like he wasn't optimizing his actual digestion. So he started right at around 2,000 calories, right? Because we lowered him a little bit. But what we had really had to focus on is notice how high this fat was, right? Carbs weren't too bad, but protein was low. So what we actually had to do is we actually had to lower the fat intake. We had to raise the protein intake, and we actually kept carbohydrates the exact same. But lowering the fat intake pushed the body to use more carbohydrates, right? And the higher protein intake aided in a better thermic effect because we noted that 35%, like the thermic effect of protein is 35%. So we simply just raised his protein, lowered his fats. We transitioned these two around. That's exactly what we did, is that we took the calories that he was overeating on fats and we put those calories towards protein, right? And like watch what happens within just the first few weeks as we raised the protein intake, we lowered the fat intake, and we just started to raise the carbohydrate intake as he checked in. This is a 6-week transformation, by the way. This is just a few weeks in. I mean, this was 25, and then this is 8. So, I don't know, like 2 weeks later, he already starts to like deflate, right? You can already start to see the inflammation start to go down. And then we just kept raising him, right? And we were optimizing his body. You can start to even see like a little bit of abs right here. And we were just optimizing his actual carbohydrate intake and changing them based upon how he checked in. And then we actually added a little bit more protein. And then this is what he checked in on the 12th, right? Like pretty damn shredded for a 54-year-old man. And like he's only 6 weeks in. Our program's 6 months long because we make sure to leave our clients in the best possible space and teach them how their body works long term so they can sustain it. But like this is a 6-week transformation, guys. And this is 700 more calories per day. 700 more calories per day. This is where he's at now. So notice how like where he's at now is that he's at up to 350 grams of carbs. He's down in fats and he's up in protein, right? And so what we did, like I said, we switched these two around And then we started working on this, right? We started slowly optimizing this, improving overall digestion. He's at 2,800 calories now. He's actually the same weight in both these photos, exact same weight. But he's at 700 more calories per day, 350 grams of carbs a day, 54 years old, and like he's not hungry. Like eating 2,800 calories is very fulfilling. I mean, he has sustainable energy. He has good gym sessions. He's looking better than he ever has. And he's 54 and like he's starting to get his abs back like he was in his 20s. So like this is the importance of understanding digestion and carbohydrates and how you can optimize the body for better digestion, better metabolism, utilizing a higher carbohydrate diet with carbohydrate metabolism. So like these videos are designed to help you guys out and open the light to like low carb dieting and keto dieting, because I know that the past like 10 years the industry's just been pushing it down people's throat for unsustainability. Now there's tons of men out there that are just stuck in low carb diets, highly fatigued, gut inflammation, and definitely utilize my channel to help out, because the whole channel is designed to help the viewers out, help the subscribers out. But if you're somebody who just wants this laid out on a silver platter for them, step by step, like a GPS roadmap, take a right at your next turn, like that's what we optimize for. And like we can lay everything out extremely perfect for you, and we will just lay it out for you step by step and take care of it all. Take it all off your plate. If you go through my channel, you'll eventually probably figure it out, and I'm pretty confident in it. And maybe you won't. I don't know. But like if you want this laid out on a silver platter for you, like there'll be a link in the description. You can sign up for a time. We currently have 175 active guys in our community, like James. And we work with some really dang good group of guys. We're a fun group to work out with. A lot of these guys came to my bodybuilding show not too long ago. We're a really tight group of gentlemen, and I'm really happy and proud of all these guys. So if that's something you're interested in, you want this all laid out in a silver platter, the link will be below. If you're somebody who's just stopping by for some more information, best of luck on your journey, but I'll see you guys next time.